Hi, welcome to iTTV. My name is Joel, your tutor for Mathematics in Form 4 KBSM. Today we'll pick up where we left at our first lesson in Chapter 1. In the first lesson we learned about significant figures and how to identify the number of digits in a number and to tell whether they are significant figures or not. In today's lesson, we will be looking specifically at the rounding off of positive numbers to a given number of significant figures. So in the first lesson, we looked and identified how many significant figures are there in a number. But in this lesson, when given any number, any measurement or any reading, we decide now how many significant figures we want it to be. Because the number of significant figures affect and reflects the accuracy and precision of a measurement or reading. Okay, the more significant figures a number has, the more accurate and precise it is. The less accurate and precise it is. Well, when do we need to round off numbers to a certain amount of significant figures? For example, if I want to measure an object, let's take this solid for example, and I'm using an instrument. Okay, after placing it, according to this instrument, the length of this object is 3.25 centimeters. 3.25 centimeters. But sometimes 3.25, as we have learned before, provides us with 3 significant figures level of accuracy. But sometimes we do not want 3 significant figures accuracy. We want to reduce it to 2 significant figures, or perhaps 1 significant figure for the same measurement. So how do we do that? We will learn it in this lesson. Apart from that, in fields such as engineering, where the calculations has to be very detailed, every form of measurement must be set to a certain number of significant figures. And changing from 1 significant figures of accuracy to another level is often and always done in fields like engineering and science. Alright, how do we round off a number to a certain amount of significant figures? Remember, we can set an initial reading or number to any amount of significant figures that we would like to. When rounding off a number, there are 2 cases. In case 1, we would like to round off any positive number that is greater than 1. Okay? As long as the number is bigger than 1, it falls into case 1. Look at the example here. Now we would want to round off the number 41.783. And how are we going to round it? Let's move on to the board. Alright, I've pasted the number 41.783. And we would now want to set this number to 4 significant figures, 3 significant, 2 significant, and 1 significant figure. So, the same number originally has 5 significant figures. But sometimes we're not happy with 5 significant figures. We want to change the level of accuracy. So how do we do that? First of all, if we would like to reduce the number of significant figures from 5 to 4, which is 4 significant figures, what do we do? First of all, if it is 4 significant figures, start from left to right and underline 4 digits starting from the first significant figure on the left. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then look at the next number after the fourth significant figure, which is 3. If this number is 5 or more, you would have to add to the previous underlined digit. If it is less than 5, you do not need to add a digit to the previous digit. So in this case, if we want to round it off to 4 significant figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, the number 3 is less than 5. So we do not have to add 1 to 8. Hence, the number of significant figures for 4 significant will be 41.78. Okay? This is 5 significant figures. This is 4 significant figures. Alright, now if we want to round it off to 3 significant figures, repeat the same procedure. For 3 significant figures, what do? Start from the left to the right and underline the first 3 significant figures. 1, 2, and 3. Then of course, like the first example, look at the next digit after the last underlined digit. It is 8. And since 8 is bigger than 5, you would need to add 1 to the previous underlined digit. So 7 plus 1 gives you 8. So if we were to round it off to 3 significant figures, the answer will be 41.8. What are we doing? We are reducing the number of significant figures. Initially 5, 4, 3 significant figures. Now, what if we want to round it off to 2 significant figures? Repeat the procedure. 2 significant figures. Underline the first 2 significant figures from the left to the right. And look at the next digit after the last underlined digit. Is it more or less compared with 5? 7 is more than 5. So remember, if it is 5 or more, you would need to add 1 digit to the previous digit, okay, which is 1. So if we were to round it off to 2 significant figures, it will be 42. Alright, look carefully here. To 2 significant figures, it is 42 and not 42.0. Why? Because 42.0, if you remember the rules of significant figures, 0 is a trailing 0. And it is after a decimal in a number, okay, which is bigger than 0. So it is considered a significant figure. So if you put 42.0, it actually has 3 significant figures and not 2. So the right answer is 2 significant figures, 42. Remember, although they are the same number, but they are on different levels of accuracy, depending on how you set it and how you round it. Okay, and lastly, 1 significant figure. So if you want to reduce it to 1 significant figure, do the same. Underline the first digit and look at the next digit after the underlined one. Is it less or more than 5? 1 is less than 5. We do not need to add a digit. So if we were to round it off to 1 significant figure, the answer will be 40. And again, it is 40 and not 40.0. Because anytime you add a 0.0 or a 0.00, although they might refer to the same number, they are already on different levels of accuracy, depending on the rules of significant figures. Okay, so this is case 1, where we rounded up a number that is positive greater than 1. In case 2, we would like to round off a positive number which is less than 1. This means that numbers that begin with 0. Okay, so the first case and the second case are different. Okay, how do we do that? Let's look at example that is here. Round off 0.006487 to 3 types of levels of accuracy. 3 significant figures, 2 or 1 significant figures. Alright, let's go to the board. Our initial number, which is 0.006487, gives us how many significant figures initially? Okay, trailing zeros are not significant figures. So there are only 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. Now, if we want to round it off to the first level of accuracy, we are reducing the number of significant figures. So if we want to change the accuracy to 3 significant figures, underline the first 3 significant figures in that number. Alright, don't start with 0, because 0 is not a significant figure in this, because it is a trailing 0. The first significant figure will be 6. So underline 6, and since we want to round it off to 3, underline 4, underline 8. And then look at the next number after the last underlined digit, which is the 7th, and see whether it's bigger or less than 5. Since 7 is more than 5, we will have to add 1 to the previous digit. So to 3 significant figures, it will be 0.00649. This is an accuracy to 3 significant figures. If we want to change it to 2 significant figures, underline the first 2 non-zero digits from the left. 1, 2. And look at the next digit on the right of the last significant figure that has been underlined. Is it greater than 5 or not? It is greater than 5. So add 1 to the previous underlined digit. So 4 plus 1, the last digit of this is 0.0065. Alright, and to 1 significant figure, underline only the first significant figure, starting from the left. And look at the next one. Is it more or less than 5? 4 less than 5, we do not add. So the level of accuracy of 1 significant figure will be 0.006. So what can we how can we say about significant figures? Although a certain number can be rounded off, okay, to many levels of accuracy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures, the most accurate will actually be the number of significant figures which is the most. But at certain times, to make calculations and computations easier, we need to adjust it to certain levels of accuracy that we would like. Alright, so the answer for case 2 is written on the board as follows. Alright, now, why don't you try some by yourself? Okay, look at the instruction. Round off the following numbers to the number of significant figures as indicated in the brackets. Alright, so when given any number, that original number has a certain amount of significant figures. The number in the bracket shows you how much and how many significant figures must you round off that particular number using the techniques that we learned in case 1 or case 2. Alright, for the first one, 234.56. Round it off to 4 significant figures. Okay, you already know the technique. This belongs to case 1. A positive number greater than 1, 4 significant figures, Start from left. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And look at the next number after the underlined digit. Is it more or less than 5? 6 is more than 5. So you need to add 1 to the last underlined digit. So the answer will be 234.6. And don't forget to write in the bracket how many significant figures have you rounded up to. We have rounded this particular number to 4 significant figures. Alright, next. 0.00020132. And how many do we need to round this number off? To 2 significant figures. So now, originally it has 5 significant figures. Okay, too many. Sometimes we need to reduce it. So we need to cut it from 5 to 2 significant figures. We are just changing the level of accuracy of this number. Okay, so what do we do? Use the case 2 method. Trailing zeros do not start because they are not significant figures. We learned this in the rules of significant figures. So start from the first non-zero digit. And we want to round it off to 2 significant figures. Underline the first 2. Look at the next number. 1 is less than 5. So this number need not be added with 1. Okay, when a number is less than 5, we do not add 1 to the previous digit. So the answer will be 0.0020. And this has been rounded off to 2 significant figures. Alright, in the last example, 78,948. Alright, I'm sure you know how many significant figures this is. Originally, 5 significant figures. But now, we want to reduce it to just 3 significant figures. So I'm sure you know how to do it right now. It's a positive number greater than 1. So it belongs to case 1. 3 significant figures. Underline the first 3 starting from left to right. And check the next number after the last underlined digit. 4. It is less than 5. So we need not add 1 to the previous underlined digit. So this makes 78,948 when rounded off to 3 significant figures simply as 78,900. And students, please be careful here. The answer is 78,900 and not 789. Why? Because if we put it at 789, the 2 zeros here are missing. Initially, this number is a very big number. It is in the unit of tens of thousands. So we cannot simply just reduce it here. This is a special case, and if you remember, case 5, where trailing zeros might or might not be considered as significant figures depending on the situation. So in 78,900, although it has 5 digits, the trailing zeros in this case do not represent any significant figure. So only 3 significant figures for this number. So the rules of significant figures must be understood very clearly before you can round off any number to any level of accuracy that you want in terms of significant figures. And why don't we look at the next set of questions? Okay. Can you please complete the table below and round off the following numbers on the left to the stated amount of significant figures? Alright, you'll have some time and please try it. Alright, I'm sure you have done. Okay, remember, look at the number of significant figures that is required and then apply the same method as you have learned in case 1 and case 2. Alright, so the answers, can you please check them? For the first number, the answers Alright, for the second one, when rounded off to the number of significant figures, the answers are below. So be careful, especially with rule number 5, because rule number 5 states that trailing zeros might or might not be considered significant figures. Alright, next. Alright, and finally, for the last question. Alright, so what have you done? You have just rounded off the 4 numbers to the number of significant figures that is required. Remember guys, you are not changing the number, you are just changing the level of accuracy for that particular number. So, in looking at significant figures, the rules of significant figures must be understood. So we have come to the conclusion of lesson 2. And what have we learned today? We have learned today how to round off numbers to a level of significant figures that is required. And remember, not always the number of significant figures in the original number is needed, because sometimes we need to modify, okay, and edit the number of accuracy and precision of that number. So when you round off the number, remember the rules of significant figures and also how to round off the significant figures depending on case 1 and case 2. Alright, see you next time. Thank you.